Love is come again like wheat that springeth green. The light of our chalice now kindles in our hearts the spirit of life and of our continuous living. This light breaks the day in our hearts as the hearts of the women arriving at the tomb were broken open when they arrived that first Easter morning, full of questions, full of doubts, fully human, fully holy. We light the flame in joy as we join in the song of spring and the praise of returning life.
Morning. In the springtime of the year, on this morning of wondrous love, we pause to consider and to reflect. In the spirit of love and of praise and thanksgiving, we welcome you to our Easter Sunday worship at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York. Bring yourself, your full imagination and breadth of being to that long ago morning at the tomb where the body of Jesus had been laid. A quiet morning when the women arrive, expecting nothing more than the continued work of grief and of loss. That morning brought uncertainty and fear and questions, even as it also brought promise and hope and joy. The first light of the earliest days of spring be our guide as the small but welcoming light of our chalice flame prepares us for the celebration to come.
We have two readings this morning. Our first reading is from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, verses 1 to 12. But on the first day of the week at early dawn, they came to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, but when they went in, they did not find the body. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly 2 men in dazzling clothes stood beside them. The women were terrified and bowed their faces to the ground, but the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, but has risen. Remember how he told you, while he was still in Galilee, that the Son of Man must be handed over to sinners and be crucified, and on the 3rd day rise again." Then they remembered his words, and returning from the tomb, they told all this to the 11 and to all the rest. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Stooping and looking in, he saw the linen cloths by themselves, and then he went home, amazed at what had happened.
Our second reading this morning is chapter 9, verses 1 through 10 of the Gospel of Mary, a Gnostic text believed to have been written in the 2nd century CE, which was discovered in Egypt in the late 19th century. Historians have determined from preserved texts that the Mary is in the title is Mary of Magdala, sometimes called Mary Magdalene. When Mary had said this, she fell silent, since it was to this point that the Savior had spoken with her. But Andrew answered and said to the brethren, "Say what you wish to say about what she said. I, at least, do not believe that the Savior said this, for certainly these teachings are strange ideas." Peter answered and spoke concerning these same things. He questioned them about the Savior. Did he really speak privately with a woman and not openly to us? Are we to turn about and listen to her? Did he prefer her to us? Then Mary wept and said to Peter, "My brother Peter, what do you think? Do you think I've made this up myself in my heart, or that I am lying about the Savior?" Levi answered and said to Peter, "Peter, you've always been hot-tempered. Now I see you contending against the woman like the adversaries. But if the Savior made her worthy, who are you indeed to reject her? Surely the Savior knows her very well. That is why he loved her more than us. Rather, let us be ashamed and put on the perfect man and separate as he commanded us and preach the gospel, not laying down any other rule or other law beyond what the Savior said." And when they heard this, they began to go forth to proclaim and to preach.
believe? Do you believe in life after death? Do you believe in life after love? Okay. Do you believe in God? In a creator God, or a passive God, an active God, a God that transcends reality, or one that is immanent from within all things? Do you believe in many gods or none? Who do you believe? Do you believe in any scriptures? Do you believe in any myths? How do you decide what or whom to believe? How often or how willing are you to change your beliefs? We are the faith that questions. One of my favorite memories of my early days in Unitarian Universalism was my delight in spotting a pamphlet on display at my home congregation titled Unitarian Universalism, Find Us and You Shall Seek. And that felt really honest. It felt right to name that just because you have arrived at an answer to a question, that doesn't necessarily mean that your search is over. You may be presented with new information. You may have an experience that changes your own perspective. You may hear from the perspective of someone else and look at what you used to believe in a new way. Find and you shall seek is, of course, a play on a verse from the Christian Bible, specifically the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verse 7. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. That is the King James Version, which is probably the most famous translation of this particular verse. But the next verse, 8, also in the King James Version, proceeds to expand upon this. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. Now, of course, we do bear in mind the time and the culture of the King James Version when we hear this, but do consider that everyone in the first part of the verse is automatically set to be the antecedent for masculine pronouns, he, him. Now, these were taken to stand for all, and yet we also know historically that there were times when a collective he or him actually meant precisely that, a group of men. It is this idea, or perhaps the questioning of this idea, that our two readings this morning ask us to take to the story of Jesus, and most particularly on this Easter morning to the story of the resurrection of Jesus. First, we heard the story of the discovery of the empty tomb as related in the Gospel of Luke. Now it was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them who told this to the apostles. But these words seemed to them an idle tale, and they did not believe them. But Peter got up and ran to the tomb. Stooping and looking in, he saw the linen cloths by themselves. Then he went home, amazed at what had happened. In the burial customs of Jesus' Jewish community at the time, it was the work of women to care for the bodies of the beloved dead. This was the holy work that the women traveled to the tomb to do on that Sunday morning once the Sabbath had ended and their faith permitted them to work again. But of course, once they had such an experience, the mere fact of the empty tomb would have been shocking enough. But the fact of the messengers in dazzling clothing meant they absolutely had to go and share what they had seen. What could it mean? They sought others to help them find that meaning. Reminded as they were of what Jesus had told them earlier, of course they rushed to the others who had loved Jesus. Perhaps they were scared and excited and uncertain and hopeful all at once. But then, arriving with this momentous news, Their words were dismissed as an idle tale. They were not believed. Peter did not believe until he went to the tomb for himself, which reminds us of a familiar story. Perhaps you have heard of doubting Thomas, right? Who did not believe in the resurrection of Jesus until he saw and touched him for himself, right? So let's visit, we're doing King James today, so let's visit what the King James Version has to say here. The Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 29. Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they who have not seen and yet have believed. What is that, a gender-neutral, potentially singular they being used in the King James Version of the Gospel of John? My goodness. Anyway, it's all very interesting. Very interesting indeed. The Gnostic text of our second reading is even more interesting. What we have left of the Gospel of Mary is a partial text only, and today's reading, I will note, is not a direct corollary to the exact text that we had from Luke. It is not exactly Mary speaking about the empty tomb of Jesus. It is an illustrative sample of another account of a woman speaking about something that she learned directly from Jesus. And again, in this story, she is initially not believed. But then something different happens. Let's return to the text. Then Mary wept and said to Peter, My brother Peter, what do you think? Do you think that I have thought this up myself in my heart, or that I am lying about the Savior? Levi answered and said to Peter, Peter, you've always been hot-tempered. Now I see you contending against the woman like the adversaries. But if the Savior made her worthy, who are you indeed to reject her? Surely the Savior knows her very well. And the change is, Levi steps up. There's someone there who defends the story that Mary has told, even though he has no more personal knowledge of what she is relating to Peter than he does. In essence, Levi says, if Jesus trusted her, I trust her. I believe what she says. We can look at the etymology of the words belief and believe, and we see that the original meaning of these in modern English, dating to around the 12th century, is faith or confidence in something. It stems from an Old English root word gelepha, belief or faith, from a West Germanic root meaning to hold dear, to esteem, to trust, and sometimes even to love. The meaning, be persuaded of the truth of, is from the mid-13th century, and the meaning, credit upon the grounds of authority or testimony without complete demonstration except as true, is from the early 14th century. Thank you, Etymology Online. So the meaning of the word belief started out much closer to saying, I believe in you, than I believe what you said is factually true. A root traced back delicately to love. If the women left the tomb and told the others who were close to Jesus, who missed Jesus and loved Jesus and were terrified of a world that would kill their beloved teacher and were scared about what would now happen to them, if those who heard the women were able to hear them in love, they would have been able to believe. They could have said, we all loved Jesus. Something tremendous must have occurred to bring you away from the holy work you set out to do. We believe you. The truth of what happened that Easter morning long ago cannot be known by us today. There are too many accounts. They are too fragmented. They are too ancient. They are each shaped and formed by the beliefs and worldviews of those who wrote them initially. We hear the clashes and clang of this holiest of seasons. It is Easter Sunday. Passover has began on Wednesday. We are in the middle of the holy month of Ramadan, and this weekend was also the Buddha's birthday, right? different part of the world, different space from the clash. We hear the contention, we hear the different stories being told and being shouted and being blasted in the Holy Land, as though only one land can lay claim to that title. What is the sacred work of Easter for Unitarian Universalists? Our pluralistic faith holds room for many truths, many different paths to truth. So we think about pluralism as one of the core values of our faith, always held in relation to love. And language that we have in our latest revision of the Article 2 of our bylaws, we have more information about that coming soon. The language about pluralism says, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. And that feels to me like, even if you and I don't find the exact same path to truth and meaning, I love you enough to hear what you say, to listen with my heart, and to ask any questions that I may have out of love and not out of fear. The work of our questioning, pluralistic faith at Easter, the holiest day of the Christian calendar, is, as it is every day, to love, to be curious, to engage with the meaning made within our own hearts and by others with deepest respect, to ask what is in our heart about the story, the many stories of Easter, about the stories of Jesus, about the stories of life after death, about the stories of a God loving enough to release us all from the pain we feel when we fall short of the mark of those values we wish to uphold. Maybe we, any of us sitting here, any of us hearing this, maybe we have found Jesus on our own search for truth and meaning. Or maybe we left that path to go seek other paths because of our own direct experience of mystery and wonder. Maybe you, like me, still love Jesus and many of the teachings and many of the stories told about him, but you are on a journey of learning and exploring what on earth Jesus means to you now, as opposed to what you were taught when you were younger. No matter where you are on your faith journey, no matter what Easter means to you personally, believe in the heart of your fellow seekers, your fellow questioners. Believe in each other. Believe in the light of love, the continuance, the persistence, the triumph of life and of joy in the darkest of times. Believe in the beauty of a story of life continuing after death, the joy of a story of love continuing to grow in the world. Marvel at the story of a teacher losing himself in the fight against empire and in the strength of those who found a way to believe in him even through their own fear. Believe we can create peace. Believe in the song of your heart and lift your voices together.
Please join us in extinguishing our chalice and your home chalices, if you have lit them, with these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
These we carry in our hearts. Light, truth, warmth, curiosity, love, respect. You never know what is going on in the life of anyone you meet, where they are in their journey. Every land you may stand on is holy land, and every person may be at the holiest or most challenging time of their life. So at this time when many around the world observe the highest days of praise, of sacrifice, and of dedication to their own faith path, we lift our hearts together. We share our faith and welcome you in yours. May this flame and this light accompany you throughout the weeks and days to come. So may it be.